Hey guys, I'm back here again for our classic horror review, and for today's review is a movie that I've wanted to see for a long time. It's one movie I've heard a lot about, and I watched it for the first time last night, and I really did enjoy it. This film was released in 1974, and that is Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. This is the single disc DVD release from Blue Underground. Just a disc. And yeah, this movie goes under some alternate titles, the two main ones being The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue and Don't Open the Window. And Blue Underground did release a two-disc edition under the title The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. But I got this version because I prefer the Let Sleeping Corpses Lie title, and I really do like that artwork as well. You know, um, it looks more like a ghost story than a zombie movie. This is a zombie film, and it looks more like a ghost story, like a really creepy one. So I really do like that artwork. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into the plot of the film. So the movie opens, and like I said, it's set in, or I believe it's set in Manchester, according to the title, and you see a man riding a motorcycle, and he's got a black leather jacket on and a long, dirty blonde hair and a beard, and he's riding through the town, and he stops by a gas station. And while he's there getting gas, a car backs up into his motorcycle and knocks it over and damages it to where he can't drive it. And a woman gets out, and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I have insurance. I'll pay for the damages of the motorcycle." And he tells her, "Well, I think it's the least that you could do is you could give me a ride to this town that I'm going to." And he kind of bullies her into letting him drive her car to the town that they're both headed off to. And he's really rude to her and everything, and he just really doesn't want much to do with her. But they both end up driving to the town. You do find out that the man's name is George, and he just recently purchased a house in the town that he's looking to fix up with his friends. And the woman's name is Edna, and she's going to the town to visit her sister, who she hasn't seen in a while. And they're driving through the town, and one thing I noticed about the town is kind of a dark and kind of a just a dark, gloomy place. All the houses around them are mostly made out of from what I could tell, brick or wood. And there's lots of fields around the entire town. I guess you could call it a farming community, I guess is the right way of putting it. But like I said, just a small town. There's just a lot of brick wood houses, and there's a lot of woods around the the town as well. And while they're driving around, Edna ends up forgetting what road to turn off to get to her sister's house. So George decides to stop right next to this big field to ask for directions. And there's a group of men in the field. There's one man who's holding a really big rod, and attached to the rod is this really large circular object, and he's moving it across the ground, kind of like this, kind of like how you would do a weed whacker in some way. He's moving around slowly around the ground. And there's someone else in there talking to him and describing what the thing does. There's also two men over on this big truck, and there's a machine attached to the truck that's moving around that is supposedly what is controlling the object that this man has. And when George comes over, he asks, what does this thing do? And they tell him that the machine is an agricultural machine that is supposed to help kill and get rid of insects in the ground using waves of radiation. So, you can tell, just waves of radiation is going into the ground, into that field, and what they do is they drive the insects crazy to where they become cannibalistic, and they basically attack and eat each other. And of course, George, he's in a bad mood, of course, because his motorcycle just got messed up. So he's all like, "Oh, that's not gonna work. You guys are dumb," and he just he gives everybody a hard time. But he ends up getting the directions to Edna's sister's house. While Edna is sitting in the car waiting on George to get back, a man walks up, and he's all dirty, he's wet, he's got dirt all over his clothes, and he's got red eyes. There's actually a picture of him right there. And he ends up coming up to her and tries to get into her car. And she, of course, freaks out, jumps out of the car, and runs over to see George. And when all the men look down towards the car, there's no one there. The man is gone. So obviously George just thinks that she's hallucinating, and she completely just says, "Oh, you're seeing things. You've been out in the heat or whatever. She's basically he basically thinks that she's crazy." But he does get directions towards Edna's sister's home, and so they both decide to get back into the car and go towards it. Then in the next scene, you see the inside of Edna's sister's home, who I forget the name of. Her name escapes me, but first you see her husband, and you know that her husband is a photographer because there's a lot of different photographs all around his room. There's one photograph that the camera zooms in on, and you can kind of get a good you can focus on, and it's a picture of a woman, a naked woman, sort of in the fetal position almost, and you can tell that the woman that is in that picture, did not want her picture to be taken, and and she seems very frightened of whoever it was who took the picture. From the time you meet, Edna's sister and her husband, you know that they don't have a really great relationship. Edna's sister, at the beginning of the movie, she's really upset over something. And he tries to comfort her, and she just sort of turns away from him, like she doesn't want to look at him. She doesn't want him touching her. So he finally just gives up, and he goes to take some pictures of a waterfall. While he's gone, you get an idea that Edna has a drug problem. Edna's sister has a drug problem. After he leaves, she ends up going into the kitchen and starts cooking up heroin. While she's doing that, the same man that attacked Edna ends up finding Edna's sister's home and ends up chasing down and tries to find Edna's sister and tries to attack her. So she runs off to her husband, and her husband attempts to fight off the man. And this isn't really a spoiler because it sets up another plot to the movie, so it's not really a spoiler. But Edna's sister's husband ends up getting killed by the man, and then goes away. And as George and Edna's sister pretty much just goes is very hysterical after this. And George and Edna arrive, and they find her sister hysterical, and she keeps talking about a man. Oh, my husband was killed, and George doesn't believe her, but Edna does because she believes that it was the same man that had attacked her earlier. Well, then in the next scene, the police arrive. And the police detective that's there, he automatically expects that George and Edna had something to do with the murder of Edna's sister's husband, because she does, and both Edna and Edna's sister tries to explain, say, "Oh no, it was somebody. Some man. He tried to attack me, and he had red eyes," and of course they don't believe her, and so. From the rest of the film, the detective begins to believe that, that George and Edna are responsible for the murder, and he begins to follow them around. And as the movie goes on, of course, George and Edna soon discover that there's something not right about the small town that they're in. And I don't want to give anything else away, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Now, my thoughts on this movie, I really did enjoy it. This was a really, really good one. Of course, the movie was made in the 70s, so it does have a 70s horror film feel. The acting in it is really good. Everybody did a really great job, especially the one who played Edna's sister. She played a really great hysterical woman. And, yeah, I think all the acting in this film is pretty much top-notch. Everybody did a really great job. What else? I'll talk about the gore in it. Now, this movie is not, even though it is a zombie film, it is not a straightforward gore fest. There's just enough gore to make it look, I guess you could call it realistic. Because I've noticed in a lot of more modern zombie movies, they always go overboard with gore. and they end up making it so gory that it becomes more funny than it does shocking, and it becomes less realistic. In this movie, however, the gore is really well done. It's realistic, in a sense that it's a zombie film, but it's realistic enough to where you would say, oh yeah, that's the amount of blood I would expect, So yeah, there's not a whole lot of really graphic, gory scenes. There's not a lot of them, but there is enough to even make gore hounds happy, So this movie does have this movie has the right mix of creepiness to it. There's some spooky moments as well as gore. So it's got both the right mix of both suspense and gore in this movie, and it's one movie that I think will really appeal to a lot of different people. So yeah, also the music in it is really good as well. I really did enjoy the music of this film. So yeah, this is definitely one movie that if you're a fan of zombie films and 70s horror films, and this is one I highly recommend. This is a true classic to me. Unlike House by the Cemetery, where it's more of a cult classic, and I couldn't recommend that movie to everyone. I can recommend this movie to anybody. So if you're a fan of zombie films or just great, very, very well done horror films, then I highly recommend Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. And as I said, it's also known under different names, such as The Living Dead is the Manchester Morgue, and Don't Open the Window. So, if you see a movie with that title, it's the same film. Either way, I definitely recommend checking this one out. It's really a great film. All around, like I said, great suspense, great gore, great acting, great special effects, just everything. So yeah, guys, that was my quick review for Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, let me know down below if you've seen this movie and if you what you think about it. And yeah, I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope everyone has a good weekend. I won't be home this weekend, so if you comment on this video and I don't respond, it's just because I'm not home. But I do plan on being back on Sunday, so I will answer comments then. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks to everybody for sharing these videos around. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later.